What's happening? Andy here. I am joined today by Peter Kujawa of ConnectWise. How are you, Peter?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you, Andy?
I am awesome. It is great to see you again. I just saw you a couple weeks ago at your conference. ConnectWise had a big conference down. IT Connect Global was down in Orlando, and you were out in front for a good part of it this year. Let's just take a step back and talk about ConnectWise and what you guys do over there, and then we'll jump into the conference and yeah. So tell us about the company. Tell us about ConnectWise.
Well, sure. I think ConnectWise is pretty well known in the industry. ConnectWise was an early pioneer in the managed service industry. The PSA software is what we were best known for, but today ConnectWise is about 3,500 employees worldwide, and we're providing all sorts of support and software to IT solution providers, especially MSPs all over the world. And that includes both the software, so PSA, RMM, and various security software and services that we do as ConnectWise, but also my part of the business, which is IT Nation. And IT Nation includes the IT Nation Connect events, like you were just at our big flagship global event in Orlando in November. And we also do Connect events at a smaller scale, but still big events and a lot of fun in London in March and in Australia in August. So IT Nation Connect and then IT Nation Evolve, which is our peer group organization. This year we're celebrating 25 years in Evolve, but we have about 650 or so companies worldwide that get together every quarter and do in small groups and then come together on what's called Community Day, where they all get in a room for the day and learn various things. So it's a nice mix of the small group, really confidential interaction with some of the larger group training on leadership and legacy planning and some of the other things that are badly needed in the managed service provider space. And then, of course, service leadership, which also is what I started with ConnectWise. ConnectWise bought service leadership back in late 2020, and I joined in 2021 to lead that after Paul Dipple retired and continue to lead that as part of my org today. So if you look at service leadership, you look at IT Nation Evolve and IT Nation Connect, ConnectWise has made a significant investment in helping partners succeed. So it's not just about selling software, but the company's really focused on what drives partners forward, what gives them better revenue growth, better profitability, best practice sharing of what drives success, etc. And as you know, we have made a significant investment in that in the office technology, the dealer space. We have a large community of dealers who we do additional content for, including you were there, I think, for Jenna Miner. Jenna Stramaglio leads that part of the business for us and did a great job on the first day of IT Nation, doing a full day of content that was specifically there for dealers and dealers who are serious about managed services. And a lot of the dealers in that room today, the managed service part of their business is the largest, the fastest growing, and the largest source of their profitability as a business. So we're here as a company to support dealers as well in a unique way.
Well, that's a ton, and you touched on dealers, and I think I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about a little bit of your past, just to highlight where you came from. You didn't grow up in this managed service world completely. You started with a dealer, or at least maybe not started, but you spent time with a big Midwestern dealer, didn't you?
I sure did. Yeah, it was a great time. One of the highlights of my career. So I ran an MSP for about 2.5 years or so, a little over 2 years. And then we were acquired by E.O. Johnson. And Mary Jo Johnson was the owner and still is the owner today. And so I quickly was indoctrinated into the dealer space. Roger King, who you know, Roger, former president of E.O. Johnson, Roger led the acquisition. Roger and I got along really well. He kept me in running the MSP that LockNet that they had acquired, and I stayed on for another 9 years, and ultimately was corporate counsel of the parent company and continued to run LockNet. And while we were there, we grew that business from about a 32 employee MSP to about an 85 employee MSP. And today it's bigger. And so I, dealers can be successful at managed services, but there's some best practices and things that the dealer channel has historically not done well. Um, at a high level, a lot of dealers have tried to apply the lessons of the OT space and what has worked in selling copiers and managed print, etc., apply those best practices to the MSP space, and what drives success is really different. And so it's important if you're a dealer in managed services to recognize that, and that's okay. You can have both businesses that are run very differently, but still are driving success for the parent company and adding value for each other. It's just the way that I think a lot of consultants early on, 15 years ago, pitched this thing turned out to not be necessarily the way that success really came out of it. So it's a myth that dealers today are not succeeding in managed services. We have a lot of dealers who are running very successful and very high growth MSPs within their dealer practice. It's just that they've recognized that there's some different things that they need to do to be successful.
Well, speaking to you and having you on the show, just from your and what you do for ConnectWise, I think is valuable. But finding out and talking about your 9+ years, at EO Johnson, and the fact that you achieved those metrics, more than doubling, the size and the number of people working there, and it shows the opportunity. But I also think it adds some credibility to what you guys are trying to help dealers achieve. And you touched on it earlier, but Jenna had that breakout that kind of preceded the IT Nation event, and that was awesome. It was over 50 dealers in this. Oh, I'm gonna give you a little hint. You need a bigger room next year because that room was
Yeah, I've heard
was
that.
not
Yes.
big enough. You guys had so many people in there, 50 plus dealers in there. I don't know how
And we
many.
went bigger, Andy. It was a
I,
bigger room than last
you
year.
keep growing.
We
It's and
still
every year
filled
I
it.
go, it's bigger than it was, and it's amazing. It was really interesting to hear these guys. One of the panels talked about, their approach. Do you go after your own customers with your MSP salespeople? Are you trying to do it all with the same salespeople? Quick answer was no. Everybody's, I think, figured out you need a dedicated sales force. But some of these guys don't want to go after their own customers because they don't want to mess up with their customers. They said that during the event and during the panel. And then, other guys are talking about how this is one of our best resources and we want to cross sell, and that's the real opportunity. So, but that event was awesome, and it really kind of set the tone, I think, before you released us into the general session, and that really, man, what a wow that was with the purple lights and just that room, 4,000 plus people. Tell us about just bringing all those people to this event and just what you guys talked about that day.
Yeah, we there was a lot of thought that went into the design of the event. We made some really significant changes this year. The biggest, the most noticeable change was we moved the Friday night party to Wednesday night, and we ended the event Friday afternoon instead of ending it late Friday night.
Goo Goo
Um,
Dolls, by the way, if you weren't there, you missed the Goo Goo
yeah,
Dolls.
yeah, Goo Goo Dolls was a home. They were a home run. I've seen them 3 times, and they were every bit as good at our event as they were when I saw them at Summerfest in Milwaukee and when I've seen them at other events. You always, as a little inside baseball, you always worry a little bit, is somebody gonna just show up at a corporate
Yeah,
event
mail it
and,
in at a corporate
yeah,
store.
take the check and do a short set and call it a night? But they were awesome. But in addition to giving everybody the fun experience of that party on site, the real objective with that was we wanted to keep everybody on site. So in the past, there was an offsite party on Wednesday night that a lot of people would go to, and it would lighten the attendance at the Solution Pavilion where the sponsors were. And we just wanted to keep, we thought we could get a different energy if we kept everybody on site for the whole event, and we did. Second is we were really focused on boosting attendance. As you know, probably as well as anybody out on the face of the earth, there are so many events now, and there's so much pressure for MSPs. You can only really pick a few. I used to really narrow down. You could go almost every week of the year, with the exception of Christmas and Thanksgiving, but somebody's going to probably drop an event into those weeks at some point. But you could go almost every week of the year and go event to event to event. But A, it's really expensive, travel cost and all that. But B, just time. MSPs, if you're leading an MSP, you don't have time to do that. You got to really pick and choose. So we did a lot of things to drive on our content strategy, on the format, ending the event Friday afternoon instead of Friday night, and just put a lot of thought into it. What do we do to make this event more appealing to MSPs and to our solution partners? And so we were up in both. In it, historically, with all the events that have been added to the calendar, most events have seen declines year over year. We did not. This year, we increased our attendance at every event we had, including IT Nation. We were up about 10% in MSP attendees at the event. So, um, a lot of work, a lot of thought goes into that and a lot of planning, but it came together really well.
Well, it's just it's so cool coming to that event because I go to a lot of much smaller events, the BTA events, the dealer conferences, which are big for our world, but compared to that, it's just you took over that whole convention area. There was just not even just signage, there were tables and booths set up on your way into the pavilion. You didn't even get to the pavilion before there were
Right.
everybody's got a shtick where they're trying to get your attention. So there's people in costumes, there's just cool things at their booths. Somebody had a safe, they were trying to crack a glass safe. There was another one where you walked in with the money blowing around and a cash grab kind of thing. But everybody's got their way to draw people in, and I think that just adds to the buzz of the event. It's like everybody's coming, just the creativity, I think, to get people's attention there. It's overwhelming. It's really incredible to see. First of all those people, how well you move them at this event. Even feeding them, I couldn't believe how well you were able to just get the food out, put people through those lines. I never had to wait for anything. It was just people moved along well. It was a very well run event. And it just blows your mind when you walk into that pavilion and the lights and the glitz and the costumes are great. I just, I get great pictures from the people dressed up let's talk a little more about that keynote because you had some metrics in there I think that were really interesting to our listeners, our viewers. One of them that jumped out at me was, and it was such a interesting slide, but it was talking about how MSPs lost a lot less money this year than they have been, and that's a slide you
Yeah.
guys put up, and it's interesting to me that you're putting up slides that talk about how much money they lose, but every year they lose a little less, and I think this year was a watershed moment. They were almost pretty much even, and it shows that I think these guys are starting to get it. They're starting to figure it out. And what are your thoughts on that? I mean, first of all, why do you put that slide up every year talking about how much money these guys are losing? But what are your thoughts on the achievements and the advancement they've been making over the years?
Yeah, broadly speaking, the last 6 years, and I'm including this year, 2025, in that at this point, this late in the year, we're pretty well able to call the year. It's the best 6 year run ever for industry profitability, and we had a huge swing in revenue growth that hit starting in mid to late 2020 due to COVID. So there were some crazy things for a couple of years on wage inflation and price increases that were necessitated by wage inflation. Um, but in terms of profitability, overall, we haven't seen a run like we've seen in the last 6 years ever. And so what it tells us is a couple of things. Number one is the model of success and what drives success is well known. And so MSPs are able to understand where they should be on gross margin. If you benchmark with us, you really understand where you are relative to the top quartile on over 80 different KPIs. But how to pay your people, what the mix of level one, two, and three tech should look like, all of these different things are inputs to success in the industry. And so the model of what drives success today is well known. Second is the business model has become so accepted by the business community. So I remember in the early days of being at the MSP that I was at, 2010, 2011, 2012, it seemed like the first half of every prospect appointment was spent explaining the model of managed services. The prospect would be like, really? We're not going to have an IT guy here and we're going to call you if we have an issue and you're going to be able to fix stuff remotely? I don't get it. And so today, everybody knows what an MSP does. And um, now, broadly speaking, you still have to educate on what the nuances are of what you do and your model and how you differentiate. But today, SMBs understand that there's a place in their business strategy for managed service providers. So I think those two things have really converged over the last 6 years, and COVID helped fuel that forward. I mean, COVID was not a great event for the dealer channel long term. Short term, there was certainly some positives, but it certainly, I don't think there's any argument that it accelerated the decline in overall print volumes for most dealers. For managed services, it was the opposite, that the need to manage remote employees and hybrid employees and all the additional security needs that presented, and all of these things opened up a huge number of new prospects for MSPs. And so the dealers that are doing managed services right should be making money today. This should not, it's not like the old days where every dealer was having to carry their MSP operation they were going to make money on print, but lose money on managed services. And hopefully someday that'll flip. Today, that better have flipped. As a dealer, you should be making money in managed services. That business should be growing for you. And if it's not, you need to get some help and find out what it is that you need to do to fix that.
Well, you've got help. You mentioned the Evolve group that kind of stuck out because they had their own little almost a party, you know. You had this one section kind of it wasn't roped off, but they were VIPs and it was noticeable. And they all knew each other, which was really kind of cool. And it kind of it reminded me of some of our peer groups, right? Where, you know, SDG and CDA, American Co-op, the
Yeah, you
ones
bet.
you're familiar with. But just the way you kind of cut that out and made sure that, you know, this group is taken care of. We need to make sure that, you know, they're they're at the events that this is catering to their needs, and they're kind of what drove, I think, you know, is helped drive you to this place that you're at now is, you know, you built around their successes.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a whole bunch of dealers who are in Evolve groups. Service leadership still operates some peer groups under Evolve, and then we have all of the Evolve groups as standalone. And I don't even know what the count is today, but it's dozens of dealers that participate in those. So they get to go every quarter and sit in a group and sit in a room with other MSPs who don't look exactly like them. And that's really important because for a long time, and for some dealers still today, there's been a perception that dealers are not as good at managed services as standalone MSPs are. And there's some good reason for that perception, frankly. And so getting in a room with other pure play MSPs who wake up and all they think about is managed services, it really helps you move forward. There's definitely a value to being in a room with other dealers as well. But I think in our channel, in the dealer channel, there's historically been a little bit too much of an insular propensity, and meaning if I'm going to sit around with other dealers and talk about what we're doing in managed services, and I used to say I go to those meetings and sometimes I feel like I'm the hot girl at the prom and I'm not that good looking. And and it's because we were comparing ourselves to each other. And what we really needed to be doing was comparing ourselves not only to other MSPs, but to the top quartile. What are the best MSPs doing? And so that's where service leadership comes in. That's where Evolve comes in. And and that's what we're really here to do is provide those settings for members to get them in the right groups, make sure that they're with other similar sized MSPs, but second, provide them the benchmarking and provide them the tools that they can really objectively look and see how are they doing and understand, not compared to other dealers that they know through some of the OEM relationships that they have from those events. Those are valuable. There's definitely a place for that. But if you really want to succeed in managed services, you need to compare yourself to other pure play MSPs.
I agree. And well, to that point, CDA, everyone knows CDA, it's the biggest peer group in our world. They have a subgroup called MTA, and MTA had their own breakout during your event, preceding your event, as well as before the event. They had their own
Yep.
session, and so they had a couple, a few dozen dealers there, and so I feel like this is an event every dealer needs to go to, whether it's the principal, the dealer owner, or more likely send your top IT people. They need to see this, and as
Bring your team. We did
yeah, bring your
pricing
team, bring
discounts
a few
this
people,
year.
right? It's
Yeah,
Orlando,
yeah.
easy to get to.
We had a
Um,
lot of companies that brought three, four employees.
yeah,
That way you're learning as a leadership team and you're coming away from the event, you can compare notes and the content is the tracks were really set up
the sessions
for
were
that.
great. There were tons of them, tons of them.
Yeah, yeah. The number one complaint that we've heard out of this year's event was that we needed to record the sessions because there were so many that attendees wanted to get to that they couldn't get to because they had to make a choice. I view that as yes, that's a problem, but that's a good problem to
That's a
have.
great problem. That's a great problem.
That's
Usually
feedback that
it's
I
the
like
other
to
way,
hear.
right?
Yeah,
Usually,
yeah, that was
usually you're
good.
trying to get people in them, and it's tough. But so as we wrap this up, we're coming up on time. But for any of these dealers that haven't come to this or thinking about it, why don't we wrap up with give us some insight on why they need to be there.
Yeah, there's no event in the industry that's going to provide you the depth of content, the breadth of content, and the community that IT Nation Connect events will provide. So I would encourage any dealer who really wants to get into IT services significantly, if they're not already, but certainly um, those dealers who are in it who aren't seeing the success that they want to see and understanding why they're not growing it fast enough. They should definitely reach out to, if they're a ConnectWise client, they can reach out to their ConnectWise rep. Jenna Miner runs that community. She's great to reach out to. But come to Evolve. We have quarterly peer group meetings. We'll be doing our next one in February in Houston. And somebody who's interested, reach out, come to the IT Nation website within the ConnectWise website. You can reach out to us, learn more about what we're doing, and um, and we'll host you. Come in for the day, and you can learn more about the community and just get into the community and learn and listen to what other dealers are doing and other MSPs are doing, and make the decisions you need to make. Your business, your IT services business, your managed service business within your dealer should be successful today. It should be growing today, and it should be generating outsized profit for your business. And it's going to set the table really well for you in the future. Don't get into IT services just because you want your print reps to have something else to talk about, or some of the really bad reasons that I've heard from dealers over the years. Get into it because you want this to be a source of profit and revenue growth and success for the future of your dealership.
That's awesome. Awesome, awesome advice. It's a mind-blowing event. I do encourage everybody to go. You'll see me again.
First week of November next year. Andy, also all of your viewers, a little known thing is we do IT Nation Connect Europe in London in March, and we do Australia and Sydney in August. And about 5% of our attendees, 5 to 10%, depending on the event, are from the US. They use it as an opportunity to come over, bring their family for a trip, or just come over to London or go to Sydney, and it may or may not be fully deductible. No comment. But come to those as well. Otherwise, the big event is the mothership is first week in November in Orlando. So we're already getting ready for that next year.
I bet you are. Well, Peter, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. It's always a pleasure talking with you. Have a great day.
Thanks, Andy. Nice to see you.
Good seeing you.